Let's turn to issues other than Ukraine right now, Senator. Ginny Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, is in the headlines for her active involvement with prominent far-right groups linked to January 6th. Is this appropriate, and is there any action that should or could be done to address her activities?
Well, clearly, the Supreme Court has been politicized. We saw that when McConnell and Trump swiped two Supreme Court seats and completely destroyed any sense that they are impartial and not just a political body, a political party that wanted to have this kind of power. But in a lot of ways, it was just anticipated by Justice Thomas's wife over the years, where she has been just a strategist, working hand in glove with outside radical right-wing Republican interests for a generation, is completely inappropriate. The Supreme Court, of course, is separate from the Congress, and it's just critical for us just to continue to call it out. And my belief is that increasingly we need stronger ethics, yes, in Congress, but we have to find a way of imposing stronger ethical standards on the Supreme Court as well. We both need to improve, but the Supreme Court right now has just proven itself incapable of commanding the confidence of the American people that they are impartial.
Speaking of the Supreme Court, President Biden has just nominated Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to be the first African-American woman to sit on the Supreme Court. What do you think of this choice, and were you surprised?
Well, I think it's time. President Biden made a promise that he would name an African-American woman. She is eminently qualified. She was a clerk for Justice Breyer. She was a career defender, the same way that the traditional route to the Supreme Court is coming out of corporate America. We finally have someone who will come out of a defendant's perspective, those who have been indigent. And that voice is going to be needed. She's brilliant. She's qualified. She has already been confirmed for a federal Circuit Court of Appeals judgeship just last year, with Republican support from Lindsey Graham and Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. So there's a real chance here for bipartisanship in her confirmation. She's eminently qualified and will be just the voice which is needed as cases about discrimination, about all of the inequality that we can see in our society over the last several years will be litigated and brought up to the Supreme Court.
Yes or no? You certainly expect confirmation, I'm hearing in your voice. Yes or no, right?
Oh, she will be confirmed. The Democrats will stand united behind her, but I'm not ruling out partisanship. Elizabeth Warren and I saw that when we nominated Rachel Rollins to be our U.S. attorney.
The last thing we wanted to ask you is masks. The CDC is easing guidelines for wearing masks in indoor public places. The State of the Union is coming up this week, so will you still be wearing yours at the Capitol, or will you wear yours when you go into a store? What's Senator Ed Markey's mask position?
Yeah, I will be wearing my mask when I'm indoors. I will be wearing my mask at the State of the Union address. Remember, 80 to 90% of those who have died, and it's now up to 940,000 people in our country, but 80 to 90% are over the age of 60. Many had pre-existing conditions, but just being over 60 puts you in a more vulnerable situation. So I think that each individual has to make their own decision given their own health status and their vulnerability. But it's something where we should be careful. A lot of people are going to get a message that it's a green light and it's safe to go back to business as usual, but that will not be the right message received by millions, tens of millions of Americans who should continue to mask up to protect themselves from being exposed to the virus.
Senator,
remember, a third of the people still have not been vaccinated, and many of them are in Massachusetts. So please keep your guard up and remember that over 100,000 people now in the United States have passed away who have been fully vaccinated. So even that is not a protection. So people, especially in the vulnerable categories, should continue to mask up.
Senator, thanks for your time. It's great to see you. We appreciate it.
Great to be with you.